Hello ADHD parents, my name is Brow Kennington. I'm the creator of the ADHD Parent Support Group, and I wanted to hop on here today and talk about a subject that is very close to my heart. It hits home. I have ADHD and anxiety and depression, and I'm also a recovering binge eater. There's been kind of a trend. I start to notice trends, topics of conversation in the pending posts and in the comments as I'm looking through the group, and this is kind of a common theme that I feel like we need to talk about because I really wish that it had been addressed when I was a child. I started binge eating. I have binge eating disorder. It's a real thing. You can look it up. And it took me a very long time to even realize that I had it, that I was doing it. And let me explain what binging is. Binging is not overeating. Some people say like, oh, I went out to lunch with my friends and like I ate a lot and I had cheesecake and I binged. No, you did not. You overate, maybe you overindulged, which is fine, but you did not binge. Binge eating is when you consume a high amount of calories in a small amount of time in privacy. You usually hide it. You hide the evidence, and it is to get a high. You get a dopamine release in your frontal cortex of your brain, and it is emotion related, 100% emotion related. It has nothing to do with the way the food tastes, because when you're binging, you don't know what the food tastes like. The first time I binged was in the 3rd grade. I ate an entire box of Tasty Cakes in my closet. Tasty Cakes are like Hostess, Twinkies, they're the Pennsylvania version. And I continued to do it all through elementary school, middle school, high school, and then even as an adult. My husband, he didn't know for 10 years of our marriage until I finally, as I started working on my own personal health and fitness, that I realized that what was actually going on and what it was and had a name for it. So I haven't binged in a very long time, but I want to share with you how to know if your child is binging and what to do about it. Because eating disorders do not happen as adults, they happen as children. And it's a result of, it's an emotional result of children trying to compensate for something. So for me, I had to replace that habit. And I had to figure out what my triggers were. And keep it out of the house. I finally was able to lose 80 pounds once I decided that I wasn't able to have sugar in my home. And I switched my focus from cake decorating to health and fitness. And, at first I thought, oh, what about my kids? They deserve to have treats, and my husband. Well, they were 100% on board. There was a little bit of grumbling and groaning at first, but they've seen the impact it has had on my life, and they're on board with it. And I still eat sugary treats, but it is in moderation and it's in a controlled environment. I don't make a double batch of chocolate chip cookies unless people are coming over, or I'm bringing them, or I give them away after I have like 2 of them. Whereas before I would eat 12 in a matter of like 2 minutes in the middle of the night when nobody was there watching. So how to tell if your child might be binging? Look for the evidence. Watch them emotionally. If they're very emotional, especially about sugary treats or carbs, if your child's having a meltdown or is getting emotional over a popsicle, chances are they have a sugar addiction and they could be binging. Look for the evidence in their rooms. Look under their beds, in their closet, in their drawers. Also look in their trash cans. I would binge and then I would wait for my opportunity to like bring the stuff downstairs and I'd bury it in the trash can. If you're finding wrappers in your kids' rooms or under your couches or in cushions, if they are sneaking food, if you bought a box, of Little Debbie oatmeal pies, whatever they're called, and the box is supposed to last a week for school lunches and it's gone in a day or 2, somebody's eating them. They are going somewhere. And so if you suspect that your child may be doing this, you need to talk to them about it. And they might deny it at first because it's embarrassing and they think they're going to be in trouble, and it is completely emotional fueled. And it feels like you can't stop. It feels like you can't help yourself. Just like any addiction, it is very real. So you need to get to the source of the problem. figuring out what is triggering it. When they binge, what are they feeling? What happened? Usually there's triggers like certain times a day. Maybe it's when they get home from school before you get home from work. Maybe it is in the middle of the night. But it's anxiety fueled, and it's to get that dopamine release. So if you get to the source of the triggers, then you can try to cut it off before it happens. Also, I highly recommend therapy. I see a therapist. I consider myself a thriving, functioning adult most days, and I see a therapist. I think that it is healthy, and it sets a good example for our children to just be in the mindset of always trying to improve and be the best versions of ourselves. Also, exercise. I'm still in my running clothes for a reason. I didn't want you to see me like this, but I try to be as real and open and honest with you guys as possible. I have to exercise every day. I have to, except for Sundays. I take that as a day of rest. But you have to get endorphins. They need that more than any other children. They need that. They don't necessarily have to be in organized sports. My kids have like a punching bag thing. They have bikes. We have a trampoline. We go on hikes a lot. Just take them to the park, but they have to get that every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. And if they're getting those things, then they're going to be less likely to binge eat. But you have to replace the habit. Some things that I learned are if they're binging while they're watching TV, or you just kind of look at the habit that's established and it needs to be replaced. So for me, instead of eating in front of the TV, 2 hands on the wheel. I have 2 hands on my water bottle or on some sort of coloring thing or craft project, so that I'm not mindlessly eating or emotionally eating. Also, sugar should not be in your home. If you have a child who's addicted to sugar, then it does not need to be in your home. You wouldn't have alcohol in an alcoholic's home and just say, well, everybody else can have it, but you shouldn't be having it. You're not allowed to have it. Cut them some slack. Out of sight, out of mind. And I know what everyone's thinking. What about Halloween and Christmas and their birthday? Okay, all things in moderation. They're allowed to, but then they have their treat, and that's what it is. It's a treat. It's not an everyday occurrence. It's not a multiple times a day occurrence. You need to read your food labels. I have a son who started struggling with binge eating, and that's partly why I started my health and fitness journey. I saw him eating an entire box of fruit snacks in the morning while we were still asleep. Eating 2 or 3 ice cream sandwiches, having meltdowns about popsicles and wanting soda at restaurants when I'm like, we never get soda at restaurants. We don't even have it in our house. But I saw him and I thought, okay, when I started binging, what did my parents do and what did I want them to do? And pretty much the answer is I wanted them to work on themselves. They were overweight. They didn't really know how to help me, so they put me on every diet under the sun. And that fueled my eating disorder like gasoline. We do not want to be creating body image issues, but if you have an overweight child, they probably are binging or overeating in some capacity. And so if you give them a good example and do it with them, if that's just how your family lives, they're going to learn, they're going to watch, they're going to follow your example. So that's my son, Austin. You want to say hi? Hi. So that's my oldest, that's Austin. So you need to replace the habit. You need to keep sugar out of your house. We still do, we kind of stopped doing food as rewards, but we still do treats sometimes. Like my son's at a kid camp, the one who kind of is a foodie, where it's more of a temptation for him and he struggles with the impulse control with it. I wouldn't go as far as binging with him yet, but the tendencies are there. I can kind of see it. The person hosting the kids camp, she said, we were going to do ice cream sandwiches tomorrow. What do you want to do? And I said, it's totally up to Bennett. It's premeditated. And the days that he doesn't eat sugar, he gets $1. So pretty much I told him, ask yourself, do I need this eating opportunity? And he really thought about it. And I said, would you rather have $1 or would you rather have the opportunity to have an ice cream sandwich? And he thought about it and he said, I want the ice cream sandwich. And I said, okay, that's fine. I won't give you $1 that day. and then you can enjoy it. It's premeditated. There's not going to be a box of ice cream sandwiches in my freezer. It's at a friend's house, and he can move on from it. My oldest, he isn't affected by sugar. He's good with, he'll eat like his bowl of ice cream, and he doesn't like get into the freezer and polish off the carton of ice cream. He's, that's just not him. But my other son, it is a struggle for him. So we don't keep it in the house. My husband is one of those guys that can eat like whatever you want and he doesn't get fat. I'm like still a little bit bitter about it, but he'll keep treats in his car, or like when he's out with like coworkers for lunch once a week, like maybe he'll get something then. But also just pretty much overall, my entire family has made a complete switch with how we live our lives. The amount of exercise we get, the food that we eat. If you look at our plates, the majority of the plate is vegetables, not meat, not some sort of carb. And we have kids that are low weight. So we are trying to pack on, the weight, but we do it with healthy fats, sour cream, avocados, olive oil, butter, milk. We do whole milk still. And just talk to your physician. But this is a very real thing. And if nothing changes, nothing will change, and your child will continue. And the longer they do it, the more emotional damage it will have. And then they will have to face this as an adult. And it's been a lifelong battle for me. It really has. And a lot of people looking at me now, they don't realize that I was overweight the majority of my life and struggled with this for such a long time. But your child's health, emotionally and physically, is more important than food when it boils down to it. So I hope that you're willing to make the sacrifice. I know it's not easy. I know sometimes it seems unfair. You want to be able to have your Doritos in the pantry or, whatever your vice may be, but also take a look inside. Are you using food as a coping mechanism? Are you using it as a reward for yourself for getting through the day? Maybe it's food, maybe it's wine, maybe it's Netflix. But when we change our behaviors and the way we interact with our children, that's when they change. I see the phrase a lot, and it kind of makes me cringe. I don't know how to handle my child. Guys, they are not giving you a hard time. They are having a hard time. And they don't know how to navigate their emotions, and unless you teach them and figure it out with them and understand them, they're not going to. This eating issue is something you have to address. It will not go away. So I hope this was helpful. I'm an open book about talking about it. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free. I will have my assistant, that's my husband, I'm going to have him put this on YouTube so that you guys can also share it or send it to your spouse or your, parent partner so that you can be on the same page with it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Ooh, I've never put on